Good morning, guys. This is Isaac Salcido, and I'm very, very excited today to be here with Miss Lynette Braun. The reason why she's sitting here, guys, is because I've decided to go in and try to see what's the type of information that is needed out there. And what I found was that everybody has questions concerning foreclosures. If it's either on the investing side, or if you have a mortgage and you're a bit afraid of what would happen, right? If you lose your job or any type of scenario, right, where you might lose your home. So with that being said, I'm very, very excited to ask some questions and get some valuable information from Miss Lynette.
Well, thank you for thinking of me and for joining me at my office. I love my new space. I'm glad you guys can come and check it out. Isaac and I know each other from a mutual friend through Difference Financial. So, Difference is a great company that educates people about how to manage their finances and how to protect their money and their assets. So I'm just very grateful to be talking with you guys. And I grew up here in San Diego. I have two sons and a stepdaughter, and I have always loved real estate. I've always been passionate about it. I knew it was what I wanted to do from the time I was a teenager. My parents really couldn't afford to send me to college. I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to do something, related to contracts, something where I could make a high income. But since college wasn't really going to be an option for me, I decided real estate is something where there is no ceiling. You can make as much as you're willing to work.
And did you find that out by going to a library or
I read a lot of books.
I was going to say Google, but
back then there was maybe AOL and it was dial-up. No, I literally read every book that the library had about real estate when I was, probably in high school. I became a notary public when I was 18, doing home loan signings, and I had a couple of other notaries that were working for me. And then I bought my first property here in Oceanside when I was 19. I bought my first investment property when I was 21, a second home. And then unfortunately, I had my two kids with my ex-husband, and unfortunately we got divorced. And this was right around the time, 2007, 2008, when the market was crashing. He was a mortgage broker. And we went through foreclosures on all of our properties. We lost our cars, we were in credit card debt. Just like a lot of other people, we thought that lifestyle of making that type of income was gonna last forever. And when the market crashed, we weren't prepared for it. So we were hit really hard, we got divorced. Like I said, I lost everything and had to really start over. So that really fueled my passion for real estate more, because I've been on the other side of the coin. I know what it's like to want to just bury your head in the sand and not deal with anything, or how stressful it is, how you can feel embarrassed, you can feel angry, you can feel sad, you feel like a failure. All of those things are normal emotions when you're going through that process. But it's really important that you reach out to someone that can, for one, educate you about what you're going through and what your options are, and who's willing to help you not only through the process of getting out of that situation, but who can support you emotionally, because it is a very stressful process. All of my clients are either moving, they're having a baby, they're going through a divorce, they're having a job change. So I really like to think of myself as kind of a coach, a friend to them, in addition to just taking care of the contracts and getting them the best deal.
For sure, and thank you so much for sharing that story. And personally, guys, that's one of the biggest reasons why Lynette is sitting here with you guys and talking about this topic, because she's empathetic and she's been through it, right? And when you say about emotions, right, I feel, and let me read this real quick. We're going to talk about the investing side, so I know that if you're thinking about buying or investing, you're already 1 minute in and you want to go in and click something else, wait.
We're going to talk about how to get a good deal, so just hang
Pause, whatever you're going to do, don't do it. Just listen to this, because even if you're on the investor side, you need to understand how the other side is feeling. So you don't want to just jump in and make it feel, because
you want to be well received.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to make them feel more of whatever they're feeling already.
Defensive and everything, yeah.
They're already feeling scared, depressed, angry, embarrassed, okay? And that is so true. Why? Because what I've seen in being in the game of money is go out there, make a good income, buy a nice home, put the white picket fence, and that's the American dream, right? And when it all shatters, definitely those emotions are, rampant inside of you.
And a majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So if you lose your job, if you get divorced, if you are injured and you don't have disability insurance, your life can change within 30 or 60 days. It's really easy to start to fall behind on your mortgage, and then it creates a snowball effect where people they go two routes. Either they want to put their head in the sand and think, I can fix this, I can fix this, I can fix this, until they can't, and it's too late, or they throw their hands up and say, you know what, I can't fix this, and I'm just going to ride it out and live here in this house as long as I can for free. But they're not thinking ahead to how it's going to impact their credit, for one. It might be difficult for you to even find something to rent if you let it go that far. And for two, you can actually walk away with the situation with money and create a win-win if you have equity in the property. So that's something that people need to understand their options.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, guys, is it's planning. I've sat with a lot of different individuals, and part of the financial planning we do is making sure that you're protected in all those different scenarios. Right? And through that, if you don't plan, how can you plan when you're in this situation already? Right? And in this case what is a pre-foreclosure?
Yeah, so let's talk about kind of what exactly a foreclosure is, because this is a question that I get all the time from both people who want to buy a property as their primary residence for them to live in as their home, or someone who's an investor who wants to buy something below fair market value. So those are the two most common people that I get those questions from. And there's a couple stages in the process. The first is going to be a pre-foreclosure. And that's when the homeowner is initially falling behind on their payments. They will have equity in the property, but they're a couple months behind, and the mortgage company will file what's called a notice of default, an NOD.
Can I pause you there?
Sure.
There's all these different type of individuals we're talking, right?
Yeah.
Is 1 month affected, or when you say couple months, is after 6 months?
It's specific to the mortgage company. It's usually about 90 days.
So around 3 months.
Right.
Okay.
If you're there, they'll try to work with you up until that point, but if they see that you're not catching up, it might be 60 days. It depends on the bank.
Okay.
But it's usually about 3 months that you have before you get that hard notice. Once that notice of default's filed, it's filed with the county assessor's office, so it's public record. Anybody can go and pick up a list of properties that are in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure from the county's office. Once that notice is filed, you have a period of time that's usually 6 months. Sometimes it's 4 months, again, depends on the bank, where you can become current on just your past due balance, so your late fees, your principal and your interest. If you bring your mortgage current in that period of time, you can keep the house and continue paying your payments as you were. If you don't bring the property current during that notice of default period, the next step is for them to file a notice of sale. A notice of sale is an auction notice. So it means you have until 5 days before this auction date to no longer just pay the past due balance. That's out of the question now. Now you have to pay off the mortgage in full. So that's kind of where people get to that notice of sale, thinking they can have more time. And then once that notice of sale comes, you need to pay off the mortgage in full in order to continue living in the house. Once people get to that point and they get the notice of sale, then it's like, well, okay, the house is going to auction. I lost it. I'm just going to live here as long as I can for free, and I'll figure it out later. So that's where I really come in with investors and individuals and help people during that 6 or 9 month period to match the seller with a buyer without the stress of them putting it on the market and doing showings and all of that. I mean, they can go that route if they want. That's going to get them the highest price. But if they don't want to go through the process of selling it when they're already going through personal, issues and the stress of a foreclosure, you can take an offer all the way up until 5 days before the auction. And that allows you to walk away with some money to at least minimize the impact on your credit. You are still going to have those lates, but you won't have a foreclosure, because you can pay it off through accepting an offer, and then the buyer who buys your home is going to pay off the mortgage through that process. So that then you can walk away with some money, you can go and rent something, you're able to recover from that a little bit better rather than just sticking your head in the sand and, figuring it out later or just giving up and feeling hopeless.
And what is the most common the most common thing you see individuals do? Is it burying their head in the sand?
Yeah, it's usually that, they're just that they've lost the house, they feel completely discouraged, they don't see what their options are. A lot of them, I think, intellectually know that they could put the house on the market and sell it and get something for it, but they're just so discouraged that they just say, forget it, I'm just going to figure it out later. And a lot of those people get knocked out of the real estate market either forever or for years.
Wow.
So if you do have a foreclosure or a short sale on your credit, you can usually get another mortgage with one or two years past. But you have to continue to be responsible, with your lending from that point forward and work with a mortgage broker to find out what you can do to repair your credit. So it's not that if you've had a foreclosure, it's not that you can never buy a home again. There is a process for you to recover from that. But you can make it easier on yourself by, selling the house when you're only a couple payments behind and you don't think you're going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, and right now you're saying that sometimes they're kicked out of buying a home forever. It's more
that's more their mindset,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've sat with individuals that are renting, and it's because in 2008, and even though they can buy a home or even an investment property, they're not willing to put themselves at that risk anymore. They feel very vulnerable.
Or they think it has to be 10 years that it stays on their credit before it falls off and they can qualify. It's actually 2 for most mortgages.
2 years.
Sometimes it's 12 months.
Wow.
And if there's sometimes actually filing for bankruptcy can be the best thing to do as well, because that really wipes your slate clean. And within 12 months, you can apply for mortgages or credit cards or car payments, because you can't file another bankruptcy for 7 years. So the lenders know that your debt to income ratio is lower now. You have more of your income available to pay your mortgage.
Wow, that's so true. It's interesting. So guys, if by any chance you are in that beginning stage and you're trying to ignore and you're a little bit lost inside of your emotions, if you're going through a divorce, if you just lost your job, if you're going through any of this, you need to understand that there is a way to go and get out of this.
Yes, so please call me, text me, message me on Instagram. On the flip side of that, if you want to buy a property that's under fair market value and you're looking from the investment side, that's where something I can help as well. I'll get that list of foreclosures just like the investors do. And if you're looking for, let's say, a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom in a coastal region in this price point, I can narrow down all the properties that are in pre-foreclosure, and then I reach out to them through door knocking, sending letters, cold calling, social media, however I can get in touch with that seller in a compassionate and understanding way. I'm not approaching something, hey, let me make you a cash offer, and just feeling like making the seller feel defensive.
Right.
It's really coming from a place of compassion, and I reach out to them and say, hey, you know what, I'm working with these great buyers. We're looking for a property in your area. We've looked at everything that's already on the market. Would you be interested in selling, now or in the near future? Oftentimes I won't even touch on the fact that they're in foreclosure when I make that first contact, because it does cause people to just close up. They're so, oh, well, she happened to reach out to me, and yes, maybe I do want to sell my house. And then we start the process of matching a buyer and a seller to a property that's not already listed on the market. Especially here in San Diego, if you're buying at anything less than $700,000 or $800,000, we're seeing a lot of multiple offers, properties that are selling over asking price, a lot of competition with buyers. So that just adds a couple more properties for you to look at where you're not competing with other buyers and you can get the best deal.
Wow. And that is on the investor side, right?
On the investor side. And that could be a cash buyer that wants to fix and flip, which is most of the time how they get their properties. They call them off market.
Okay.
But a regular home buyer can use those same techniques that an investor does to buy something for themselves. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a total fixer. I mean, just because someone's in foreclosure doesn't mean that the house is in complete disrepair. It might be falling behind on some maintenance because they're low on funds, but you're going to get the best deal that you can on that property as either an investor or a home buyer.
Perfect.
And then lastly, the other question I get is about what's the difference between a foreclosure and a short sale. A short sale is basically where a homeowner has overextended themselves for different reasons. It could be they got a home equity line of credit and they maxed it out, and at the same time the market dropped. And now that they owe more than the house is actually worth. So they could owe, let's say, $500,000, and the house can only sell for $450,000. And they're going to take a $50,000 loss if they do the short sale. So short sales are sold on the market by the bank at full fair market value. So it's not necessarily that you're going to get a better deal,
price.
Right, by selling it as a short sale.
Because I've heard about a lot of, oh yeah, I'm a short sale investor or whatever, and to someone who doesn't know, it seems like, oh, they get better deals.
Right. Yeah, it's a hard term to kind of understand, but basically the bank is taking a loss. And then the owner, if they walk away with a $50,000 difference between their mortgage and what the property actually sold for, they have to pay that $50,000 difference after the short sale process is over. So they still walk away with debt. If they can't pay it for whatever reason, or they file bankruptcy, it's the bank that actually takes the loss. So you're fighting every step of the way. For the bank wants to get the highest price, and you're trying to get the lowest price, and I'm selling for fair market value. So short sales, in addition, they take up to 6 months to negotiate. So if you're a home buyer and you want to move quickly, you need to move for a job, you're going through a divorce, you might want to scratch short sales actually completely off the list.
Wow.
Unless the bank has already approved a price that they're going to sell it for, it can take months to negotiate that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you just want to go with the pre-foreclosures, try to get them, work with the homeowner when they're still just a couple of months behind on their payments, and buy it without any other competition from buyers.
Okay. And this is on the investor side?
Both. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And there was a ton of great information, and those minutes. Is there anything else you want to add when you think about foreclosures? Because we talked about if you're going through it, right? What are your options? And as an investor, right, you can either use a realtor, right, or talk directly to the family. Now, common feelings. Now we know angry, depressed, stressed. Is there anything we would want to add to the video?
That's a good question. I think, a lot of people get to that stage, whether they're a buyer and they don't have the knowledge of buying a foreclosure, or they're the seller that's going through that process, the owner. If you're not in my area and you can't meet with me, interview 3 or 4 real estate agents that have experience doing foreclosures and short sales. And just meet with them just like you would compare any other service. You're going to interview a couple people and find out who you feel comfortable with, how much information they give you, what can they do to help you. Your agent should really be your advocate. If you're buying a home, it doesn't cost you anything to have a real estate agent. The seller pays those fees. And you have someone who's really going to fight for you. Whenever you buy or sell a home, you have an agent that represents the buyer, and you have another agent that represents the seller most of the time. Sometimes you'll have one agent that represents both. But if you're a buyer and you have an agent that only represents you, that's great. I mean, it's like being in court. You never have an attorney represent the defendant and also the prosecution at the same time. You always have someone that's representing each side. And that way it gets you the best deal, you're the most protected. So just interview agents then, find out who you feel comfortable with and see what they can offer you. And they're really going to educate you about your options because, everything's different. Every situation is specific, every house is specific. There's a lot of different type of loan products out there if you do want to buy a fixer and you don't have the money to do a rehab, things like that. So I would just say, talk to someone in your area that you feel comfortable with that has the experience to help you. Don't just get overwhelmed by your emotions and bury your head in the sand because you really are literally digging yourself into a hole that for many years will be difficult and affect you.
A lot of what I've gotten today has been a peace of mind, and I'm very thankful that I was able to listen to this. Because even now, I know that if someone is going through that, they're going to be okay.
Right.
Right. And then there's options. And thank you so much, Lynette. There's many different individuals, right? I know that a lot of people in Arizona, LA, Oregon see these videos I'm pretty sure, does it change? Do laws change depending on the state a lot?
It's specific to each state.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I say if you're not in California, it's good to reach out to an agent. I'm happy, I'm with Keller Williams. We have a huge network of people. So if you still want to reach out to me, I can definitely interview those agents for you and connect you with them and give you a good referral for someone that I know in my network. So, no matter what you're going through, please message me. Like I said, I've been through foreclosure myself. I help clients with this all the time, and there is hope. You don't have to just, bury your head in the sand. And if you want to get a great deal, there's still great deals in San Diego. Everyone says it's so overpriced and you can't find anything. Not true. Not true at all.
Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Where can they find you?
Instagram is where I'm most active on social media. So my Instagram's just Lynette Braun Realtor. You can search my name on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel called The Real Estate Library. I post videos all the time about just short topics about, what is mortgage insurance, what is title insurance, what are all of these terms in buying or selling, where you can just really get educated about all of these type of topics.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna subscribe to her.
Yes, and if you guys, I also want to, endorse Isaac, if that's even the right word. I always recommend that my clients have a good financial plan in place before they buy a home. If they already own a home, then you definitely need to get that in order. Especially something like life insurance. It's not something that people want to talk about or think about. But you're recently married, and so as your life progresses, you have more and more responsibility and people to think of. And if you own a home and you don't have life insurance, and if God forbid one of the spouses pass, and that spouse that passes is the income earner, and the other person can't keep up on the mortgage, that's another way that properties go into foreclosure.
Yeah.
So if you have life insurance that's able to pay off your mortgage, that gives your spouse the security of being taken care of in that event. So
for sure.
It's always good to meet with Isaac, meet with Difference Financial. They'll help you do a free plan for your finances, from everything for your budget to how you need to protect yourself to how you need to invest for your future. And that's super important before you ever even buy a home, because you need to know how your mortgage is going to fit into all of those moving components for your overall life.
For sure, and it's so important. And what I've noticed now when it comes to money, guys, is you need to find someone that is going to guide you, kind of like a therapist, right? If I was going through foreclosure, I would want some therapy from Lynette. And when it comes to the prepping aspect, is we're here. So thank you so much, and hopefully you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Thank you.
See you guys.